I need somewhere to fangirl about First Burn from Hamilton. Oh my gosh, I've been obsessed for years. Anyway, this is like a very unscripted video, and I'm just gonna be breaking down the lyrics as best as I can, just like, personal analysis, personal interpretation, nothing too serious. I can't be as excitable as I would have liked because this is a very sensitive mic, and it's like my second take of this video. The first one is literally unsalvageable. Like, why are you telling them this much? Like, could you just not? You could have talked about anything else. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, we're going to analyze probably stanza by stanza. So, it says, the first part says, I saved every letter you wrote me. From the moment I saw you, I knew you were mine. You said you were mine. I thought you were mine. You guys. Okay. So, I mean, I think we all understand that Eliza really, really likes Alexander. I mean, we've got Helpless to prove it. And I feel like this song, like the way that it starts, really just brings that out because she says, I saved every letter you wrote me. Now, we know as the fandom that they exchanged letters over their courtship, which must have happened around the time of Helpless because that's literally, that song encapsulates their whole meeting, I guess, courtship slash falling in love, proposal, and marriage, right? I don't actually know like the history of the Alexander Hamilton, so I can't tell you that, oh, this is also according to what happened in real life and whatnot. So I'm analyzing based off the musical. So cool. Yeah, she like has those letters from back then, right? Cool. And then it says, from the moment I saw you, I knew you were mine. So this echoes also what she said in Helpless, where what did she say? My sister, I don't remember. I will find part, but yeah, she echoes this sentiment in Helpless and even in Satisfied from Angelica's point of view. Um, there's a part where she is like getting really excited about how well she matches with Alexander, and then she says, then I turn around and see my sister's face and she is helpless, right? And that's kind of that crashing reality that Eliza has fallen in love like immediately. And I think that's where this is coming from. And then you said you were mine. Of course he said he was hers. Like if you remembered like the courtship, the way it was portrayed in Helpless, and towards the end of Helpless, we get the impression that Alexander was making like a lot of like promises to Eliza about their married life. Things like, as long as I'm around, Eliza, you'll never have to feel so helpless. Something like that. But also, when we take it back to earlier in Helpless, when it's not even Helpless, it's the one before that. I forgot what the name of that little interlude is called, but it's the one that starts 1780s, a winter's ball, and the Schuyler sisters were the envy of all, right? And he's talking to Burr. This is Alexander. He's talking to Burr, and then Burr is like, if you can marry a sister, you're a rich son. And then he's like, is it a question of if Burr or which one? Something like that. You'll have to excuse me. It's been quite a while since I've had like a listen of the whole thing. So one more thing I actually wanted to say is that I will be listening to the song as I analyze this, probably off camera, a little bit on camera. I don't know. We'll see what my editing self decides. And I'm doing that so that I can also capture the emotion in my analysis. And so going back to like the last line of this particular part of the song, he then says, after you said you were mine, it's I thought you were mine. So from here, it's like she's a little bit wistful, but also hurt. It's like you can start to hear the hurt coming into her voice. And so when she says, I thought you were mine, it's showing that she genuinely believed there was something. She feels like deceived. And you can tell from the intonation of her voice. And the reason I mention her voice intonations is that when it begins, it's like very calm. You don't get a sense of what she's about to get into until you start to hear the rest of the lyrics. And I find it interesting that in the choreography video by Nick Silverio, yeah, like somebody did a choreography. I think it's called interpretive dance. I'm not sure, but yeah, basically there were three women who were dressed in different colors. We've got red, yellow, and white. I can't tell what it is. It looks like an off-white. I will probably like insert a clip somewhere, and they are going to be interpreting what I believe to be Eliza's emotions all across the song. So anyway, with that in mind, I find it very interesting that for the first this first stanza, calling it a stanza because I don't know what it's actually called in like music. I did poetry in English literature. That's like as far as I know. Anyway, yeah, in this first part, it's the lady in white who starts out. Like the formation at the beginning is the lady in white, followed by the lady in red, and then the lady in yellow. So the lady in white to me symbolizes Eliza's innocence, her trust, her sense of purity, her sense of hope as well, right? So it's like her voice in that time, because of how soft, how quiet it is, it's almost vulnerable. And that is like cemented by the imagery that's provided by this choreography video, where the lady in white is the one who is dancing to this part. So yeah, that is how I have analyzed this first part. Going into the next part. So the next part after that says, "Do you know what Angelica said when I told her what you'd done? She said, 'You have married an Icarus. He has flown too close to the sun.'" Y'all, oh my gosh, I am struggling to contain myself. I promise you, I was not this calm in the first recording. It's very interesting to me that she brings Angelica into the argument. Well, it's not an argument first, but she adds her to the conversation, because you can tell from this that Angelica's opinion is a very respected one, a very honored one between these two as a couple, because Angelica is Eliza's big sister. She's also the reason they got together. And I think she's like their person in common. She's like their common friend, because Angelica and Alexander have been known to be quite friendly, because you know they're as witty as each other and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that didn't stop like past Satisfied. I'm pretty sure they went on to have that camaraderie or whatever it's called. Yeah, I think they were good. They were good. So the fact that she's then bringing up Angelica, who also I believe is the voice of reason in Eliza's life and possibly even Alexander's life, adds a lot of weight to what she's about to get into. And then she says, "Do you know what Angelica said when I told her what you'd done?" That is that first strike of judgment. It's before she even gives her own judgment. She's like, "Do you know who you're also going to have to face, like beyond me?" And I find it so interesting that the voice that is like the visual representation of this part of her voice is the lady in red. And to me, that red symbolizes anger or rage, passion, and just all of Eliza's less refined emotions, because she's presented as a very graceful and cheerful person. So these emotions, they fall under the category of things that you would call unrefined of Eliza. But that doesn't mean they're bad, because emotions are not a bad thing. They're just not something that we typically associate with her character, right? So yeah, I find it interesting that those first two lines, it's just the lady in red. And then the next part after "when I told her what you'd done" is, she said, "You have married an Icarus. He has flown too close to the sun." Now this is the part where the dancers, they come together as the two voices sing in unison, like this part. It's as if she has lent one of the voices to Angelica, because it's like two voices now. It's a harmony. when she goes, "You have married an Icarus. He has flown too close to the sun." Now, I don't know much about the legend of Icarus, but I do understand generally that he flew too close to the sun and got burned. And I don't know if that was his demise or there was something else, but there is always a lesson that comes with this saying, flying too close to the sun being Icarus, right? And so that basically shows us that Alexander has gone and created a grave mistake, one that he can't really come back from, and one that has hurt him as well as the people who he has hurt around him. And so there is that sense of judgment. Like in my head, I can hear like the what's it called, that hammer, I think it's called a gable of judgment. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, that's what I'm hearing when I see this part, when I hear this part. So okay, yeah, moving on to the next part. So from here it goes to say, don't, there's a pause after don't. It's don't take another step in my direction. I can't be trusted around you. Don't think you can talk your way into my arms, into my arms. I hate that I'm not singing it. I would, but I am so afraid of my voice betraying me. So I'm just going to have to talk through it. I'm so sorry. But anyway, we need to note the pause after the first don't. Because she goes, don't take another step in my direction. And then she doesn't pause after that. It's don't take another step in my direction. I can't be trusted around you. I find that so interesting because you can tell that she is restraining herself, but it's also like she's putting a distance, like she's putting space between them. I imagine her to be someone who is normally very affectionate, very cuddly. And so for her to stop any advances from him says a lot about how she does not want emotions or anything else to get in the way right now. She is angry. She is put off by him. She wants nothing to do with him. And I feel like she said that because I haven't actually watched the musical. I'm hoping that one day I will get tickets to go. Um anyway, yeah. Did I call it a movie or a musical? I'm sorry. I don't know. But I imagine visually that he, at this point, he would be trying to approach her. And that's when she would stop him short with, don't take another step in my direction. I can't be trusted around you. And the reason that she doesn't pause after direction and goes immediately into I can't be trusted around you in a sing-song way shows me personally the buildup of those emotions that she is trying to communicate in a way that is understandable, right? I feel like she's restraining herself for the sake of communication. But I also noticed something. At this part where she goes, don't, the dancers in the choreography video, they kind of line up in a way that shows that all her emotions have come together. It's not the different parts of her that are like reacting, it's like all of them together. And the lady in yellow this time is the one dancing. And truth be told, I don't know how to interpret her because she feels very similar to the lady in red, but I don't associate yellow with as certain an emotion as rage and passion, etc., that I've associated red with. So I would say maybe the yellow is caution, which is very fitting considering she says, don't take another step in my direction. She puts up a warning sign. And that's what I get when I think of the lady in yellow. And it's also interesting to note their dancing styles. The lady in yellow dances quite aggressively compared to how you would expect for that color. The lady in white is a bit more flowy, and the lady in red is a bit more feeling. So it subverts expectations because you'd think that the rage is what dances aggressively, but it actually appears to be the yellow, at least at this point in the song. But as we go along, it might change. And then she says, I can't be trusted around you. Ooh, that can be interpreted in so many ways. I think in this situation, she is very angry to the point of possibly wanting to harm him. Yes, I think she is so angry that she just does not know what to do. I don't know. I don't think Eliza is capable of hurting him. Well, obviously, anyone is capable, but she doesn't strike me as the kind of person to resort to physical violence in order to vent her frustrations. But I do imagine she must be very angry. She probably does not want him anywhere near her. I feel she would physically respond in a negative way, like she would shrug him off if he tried to touch her or something to that effect, you know? And I also think you can look at it from the position of her not wanting to be vulnerable with him yet. Because the reason she's putting distance is so that he doesn't get close. Because maybe if he gets close, her resolve will crumble. Maybe he will be her unraveling. Because, like I said earlier, it seems to me like she is trying to control these emotions and she is doing a very difficult job. Like, it's very hard to contain yourself in that state. So next she says, don't think you can talk your way into my arms, into my arms. See, that is exactly what I meant when I said she probably feels if he gets too close, he's going to get to her mind. He's going to get to her heart, actually. And then she's going to crumble and it's going to like take away from everything that she's trying to express right now. She is trying to communicate without her feelings getting in the way. I imagine she must be like very conflicted right now because she's torn between being angry at him, so angry she doesn't want him near her, but also because I think she associates him with like being her comfort person. I would imagine that's how she feels, considering how much she likes him. There must be a high degree of emotional dependency on him. So, you know how it is when the person you love the most makes you angry, but they're also the person you usually run to when you're upset? I feel like that is what's going on. Because she's like, don't think you can talk your way into my arms. Another way to look at it is just the way that Alexander as a person is typically portrayed as a charmer, you know? And I think that charm that he has on the ladies usually would work on his wife. And I think she knows that maybe he used to use it in ways to avoid talking about serious things, or I don't know, but I feel like he used to use it in ways to escape things. I say used to because I'm talking about First Burn as though it is what is currently happening. And so used to therefore refers to all the other songs before that, and therefore their relationship prior to the Reynolds pamphlet, right? Okay, that's how I'm thinking about it. I'm burning the letters you wrote me. You can stand over there if you want. I don't know who you are. I have so much to learn. I'm rereading your letters and watching them burn. I'm watching them burn. So, it's interesting to me that this part, the lady in white comes back when she says, I'm burning the letters you wrote me. You can stand over there if you want. There is a very uncanny, almost unsettling kind of calmness to how she delivers these lines, especially the part where she says, you can stand over there if you want. It's very much communicating, I don't care what you have to say right now. I'm not going to change my mind. I don't care if this offends you because I'm mad right now and this is what you deserve. But that calmness and the fact that it's the lady in white who is leading, and remember how I associated that with her trust, her hope, her innocence, her, what would I call it? Her vulnerability, basically. And the fact that the voice is calm again tells me that she's composed herself. Remember when I said that it was interesting to me in the previous part that it looked like she was struggling low-key for control? Maybe not struggling, but she was warning him. There was caution before, and now she's back to being composed. And the way that she talks is oddly uncaring for someone like Eliza. Because Eliza is always shown to be someone who would actually be very concerned about what you think and feel in this situation. But she has been wronged. And as we will see in the coming parts of the song, she has every right to feel how she does. And she makes it known. Anyway, she says, I don't know who you are. I have so much to learn. But before I get to that, I actually want to address why it's significant that she says, I'm burning the letters you wrote me. You can stand over there if you want. Now, Alexander Hamilton, the whole premise of the musical, what he prides himself on the most is his ability to write. he has used it as his saving grace on every occasion possible. It's how he has climbed the ranks. It's how he got out of near death, according to his origin story. I'll see if I can't like insert the line that talks about that. But yeah, it's like his biggest achievement, it's his identity. So the fact that she burns those papers feels like a desecration to who he is as a person. And normally, I'm sure he would be offended. I'm sure that seeing that sight in that moment, like he has the natural urge to stop her, but I don't think he dares to go beyond where he's standing. I feel like even he realizes that in this situation, it is unwise to try and confront her about it. But another thing about it is that it shows the brokenness of the relationship. She's burning the letters because they are no longer meaningful to her. Or at least that's what she's trying to communicate or trying to make it look like. It might actually be punishing to the both of them because to him, it's his precious words, his precious work. You can tell he prides himself a lot in his writing, right? And it's so good that it got Eliza to fall in love with him, according to his ideas anyway. Because I imagine that when he was responding to Burr saying, if you can marry a sister, you're a rich son, and then he goes, is it a question of if Burr or which one? He knew he was going to use his words to get to them. He just knew that. And so I feel like this is a direct insult to that, to him thinking he's invincible because he can play around with words, you know? And so I just thought that was worth mentioning. And then it's this part that says, I don't know who you are. I have so much to learn. I can imagine that after such a betrayal, it's very difficult to trust such a person afterwards, especially if this is someone who you have known to communicate the most with words. You know, like every assurance of love you've ever gotten from this person has been through words. But words are very easy to make up. You can lie with words. And so I think that's what she's beginning to question, and why the letters are not something that she can hold dear to her anymore. Because to her right now, it feels like he was lying in those letters that I assume he wrote to her during their courtship, right? And if you know anything about courtship, these have got to be some of the most romantic letters they have ever exchanged between each other, especially considering the fact that they probably, when Alexander wasn't away at work, they would be living together. There would be no more letters. And there is something really sweet and nostalgic about the early days of starting a romance with someone. So I would imagine that the letters were also just very sweet during that time. And so to have them be burned is like burning a part of their history. It literally is burning a part of their history, which is why it's so impactful, you know. And then she says, I'm rereading your letters and watching them burn. I'm watching them burn. It's interesting. It is very interesting to me that she says, I'm rereading the letters and then watching them burn. It shows that this is something that she did not want to do, but has been driven to do because this is a punishable offense. It probably is punishing her in the sense that she must feel some type of way. I know that in situations like this, some women or some people in general tend to feel like they were foolish for not seeing through their partner's red flags. Maybe he had red flags that she just did not pick up on, and now she's realizing them and she's getting upset. Maybe she's upset at herself for the fact that she was away while he was home alone. I'm not saying she blames herself, but I am saying when such a traumatic thing happens, you can think of all the reasons why things just should have gone differently. But I don't think she's beating herself up. I think she's beating him up, you know, and she's sacrificing how she feels about those letters to make the message clear, right? And the fact that she's watching them burn feels like she's saying goodbye to that part of their history, to that chapter of their lives together, right? And it's interesting because at this point, the dancers all kind of unify, but it's still the lady in white who is leading, which shows that her vulnerability is still at play here. It's what is really leading a lot of what she's saying, but it's also showing the depth of that hope, the depth of that trust, because there is a part where she says, I don't know who you are. I have so much to learn. And the dancer physically falls to the ground. And I feel like that is a perfect representation of maybe her resolve struggling within her not to break down from just the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. So I would say this is that part where she is starting to let her feelings come through as they are, but they're still very controlled. Ooh, you guys, this next part is. I am struggling. I need to compose myself. Anyway, you published the letters she wrote you. You told the whole world how you brought this girl into our bed. In clearing your name, you have ruined our lives. Now, in this part, the lady in red is the one who is leading, and the first thing I thought was jealousy. But it's not jealousy in the traditional sense, like, oh, I'm jealous in like a petty way, or I'm jealous of something I can't have. No, but it's like you have been betrayed because he brought another woman into the picture. And it's the part that she says, you published the letters she wrote you. I don't know. I just feel like there's that part of her which is like, why does she get such an honor? Like, no matter how disgraceful, it's as though he's boasting about what they did, you know? Maybe he's never awarded her such a kind of honor as well. Maybe he's always been very quiet or private about their affection, and yet he broadcasts what is being going on with him and this woman. And that red, along with being jealousy, is rage. So imagine a combination of jealousy and rage, because then she says, you told the whole world how you brought this girl into our bed. And the way she says bed, you guys, the dancer actually also like intentionally throws herself to the ground. And it's like such a sharp move. Even the way she says it as a word just goes to show how angry she is, seething at this part. I feel that if she was a knife and he was holding her right now, she would be cutting, like he would be like squeezing the knife like this, and she'd be the knife that's cutting into his palm. Like, that is for some reason the imagery I'm getting, because it's like it's so angry. And then she says, in clearing your name, you have ruined our lives. And this part is interesting, that it's still the lady in red who is representing it, because that shows the logical side of her argument, that now you've gone and ruined it for everyone as well. You know, it's like you failed to consider the fact of your position and our position in society. It wasn't just you took down. No, you have literally destroyed us as a family, and all your friends and everybody involved is suffering because of you. It feels very much like the vibe in Congratulations by Angelica. Like, I think it comes a few songs later, but like, yeah, you guys let me know if you want me to do a video on that. I probably will do one, whether or not. But anyway, yeah, that part, just that part. I don't think I have anything else I can say. It's just like a really powerful part of the song. And then she goes, heaven forbid someone whisper he's part of some scheme. Your enemy whispers, so you have to scream. I know about whispers. I see how you look at my sister. Okay. So, once again, the lady in white is leading, and I've just noticed that she's the only one who has her hair down. So, there is something to be said about that. I think in their own different ways, each of them represents a kind of freedom. But the fact that it's the lady in white with her hair down, because white I associated with her vulnerability and her probably most surface emotions, because she is a very emotional person generally. The fact that that's the one that has her hair down tells me that these are the emotions that are on display the most when it comes to her naturally. These are like, if you guys have watched Yumi's cells, you know that there was the concept of a prime cell, which would basically be the main cell or emotion or whatever, your driving force in life. I feel like if Eliza had a prime cell, it would be vulnerability, because that is what she exhibits the most of the time. I don't know, but anyway, that's besides the point. Uh, so the lady in white leads, and it says, "Heaven forbid someone whisper he's part of some scheme." See, this is interesting because you'd think that for a line like this, someone like the lady in red or the lady in yellow would deliver it, because it's a jab. It is a jab at his insecurity as a political figure, and probably just as a person in general. Like, he's got all these ambitions, he's trying to build a legacy. Now she's really digging into the reason why he did this, his so-called motivation for basically ruining everyone's life, right? And then she says, "Your enemy whispers, so you have to scream." But before we get to that, we take in the whole part. Heaven forbid someone whisper he's part of some scheme. Your enemy whispers, so you have to scream. That is telling that Alexander cannot handle criticism, especially not from someone who he is opposing. Because I think one of the biggest character traits about him as a character is that he is very, I don't want to say arrogant, it's not quite the word I'm looking for, but he has a lot of pride. Some would call it confidence, but no, that is pride. Serious pride. He actually thinks he's the best, because it's even outlined in one of the songs. I think it's Nonstop, where he's like, I think it's Burr who's asking him, or maybe it's rhetorical. He's like, "Why do you assume that you're the smartest in the room? Soon that attitude will be your doom." And sure enough, it looks like that's what's happening here, right? And so it says, "Your enemy whispers, so you have to scream." It's the fact that he always wants to be on top. He always wants to have the last word. And that to me just screams insecurity, because he feels that the only way to be successful, to be respected, is to have the last word in any situation, even if it means shooting himself in the foot, which is basically what the Reynolds pamphlet was, according to the musical, right? Because the whole idea was to cover up any rumors around him doing suspicious things with like the treasury, and like the suspicious records of money that were not being documented properly. So he was like, "No, actually, this is what I've been doing. I can promise you guys, I haven't been doing weird things with the treasury." But like, at what cost? At what cost? Fine, you tried to win the people's loyalty, but you lost your families. And furthermore, you didn't actually win the people's loyalty, you lost that too. That's why these guys made a song, "He's never gonna be president, now never gonna be president." That's one less thing to worry about. That's one less thing to worry about. Oh my gosh. Anyway, can we talk about this part? "I know about whispers. I see how you look at my sister." Guys, this whole time, I think up until this point in the song, no one thought that Eliza was aware of the mutual pining between Alexander and Angelica. We all thought, oh no, she's just too precious to assume or suspect such a thing. But this is where she's coming in to be like, actually, I am not naive. I can see. But what breaks my heart is how she says it. You can interpret the tone of her voice to be cutting, in the way that you think you're so smart, but I actually saw through you. Or you can interpret the way it goes quiet to be heartache, heartbreak. I think when she says this, she brings to light the feelings of just never being his first choice, of always being second best, you know, of never being the one that he keeps his eye on. Because I think this comes out a bit in That Would Be Enough. She says, "Let me be a part of the narrative of the story that you'll write someday." And she expresses a lot of sentiments in that song that I can't think of right now, where she just shows that she wants to be his piece. She wants to help him. She wants to be part of his world. Because shortly after "Let me be a part of your narrative," she says, "Let this moment be the first chapter where you decide to stay." something like that. And the way she sings that song, it's so beautiful. It's so full of love, affection, understanding. It reminds me very much of the wife of the greatest showman. I forgot her name, but she's got that song Tightrope that she starts singing once he drives off to go on tour with that lady, that celebrity. And oh man, I'm getting a lot of I feel like I see some parallels between those two. Maybe one day when I'm brave enough, I will do a side by side character comparison, analysis, whatever. But yeah, I just find it very. I respect Eliza. I find it so dignifying for her character that she delivered that line. I see how you look at my sister. Because I think there's a tendency to look at a character like Eliza and think that she doesn't have her wits about her. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have compared Eliza to Angelica, and it's always that Angelica is much smarter, much wittier than Eliza. Therefore, that must mean that Eliza lacks those same qualities and makes up for it in cheerfulness and whatever else is there about her sweet innocence, right? But I don't think that should be the case. I'm pretty sure that them being sisters, they have traits in common. It's just that they each have their different ones that shine to the surface like a lot more. They shine through the surface? I don't know. Anyway, she says, "Don't. I'm not naive. I have seen women around you. Don't think I don't see how they fall for your charm. All your charm." Once again, it's the lady in white who leads this part. The don't. Remember, caution, step back. I'm not naive, but it's the lady in white this time. And she says, "I have seen women around you." But the way she's dancing is very anguished. It's like very aggressive, but there is anguish because she scrunches up her dress. She's like writhing. It's almost painful to watch. And that shows how much Eliza had been internally suffering, watching her husband's attention be on other women when he thought that she didn't notice. Or maybe he just didn't care. But I would imagine that Alexander thinks he's more slick than he actually is. So he's thinking, oh, no, that's just who I am. You know those people who claim they're naturally flirtatious. No, you need to have boundaries. Like when you are romantically involved with someone, you need to learn how to have the self-control to not make them uncomfortable with that behavior. Because there is a time and place. And quite frankly, once you're in a relationship, such attention should be directed at that person alone. But anyway, she says, "Don't think I don't see how they fall for your charms, all your charms." At this part, all the dancers kind of start to come together again. And it's like they start to like dance in a very unified, almost puppet-like way, which I think represents the hypnotic effect, the controlling effect that Alexander's charm has on these women and like most women in general, because I'm pretty sure he has used it to get his way on in different instances, because I don't think you would hold on to that kind of charm if it didn't benefit you in some way, especially if you're someone like Alexander, who is quite clearly an opportunist, because hello, I am not throwing away my shot. So yeah, I think that says quite a lot about him. And the fact that Eliza has seen it happen, I think that, in their early stages, I'm pretty sure like she, just like every other woman, had fallen for his charms. That's probably how she fell in love with him on first sight. And I think now it's become something that she detests, because then she says, "Don't think I don't see how they fall for your charms, all your charms." And I have seen this part be interpreted in many different ways in fan-made animatics. But there is one in particular that always sticks to me. I've forgotten now who the original artist is, but once I find it, I will put it somewhere, probably on the screen. But in this representation, she Eliza is depicted as hugging, clutching the letters as she talks about she says this line, right? And then she says, don't think I don't see how they fall for your charms, all your charms. And there's like kind of like a mirage, hallucination, I don't know what you want to say, what you want to call it, of Alexander like hugging her. And for just like a split second, it's like she succumbs, she gives in to that charm, to that comfort that she's probably deep down yearning for. But then she immediately shakes herself free towards the end where she says, all your charms. And I think this is that part of feeling resentful, that she fell victim to those charms. And it worked so well that she got married to him. So I think in this moment, she's seriously questioning that decision. But I can't say for sure because there isn't a lot to indicate that she regrets marrying him. Just she's really angry, she's really hurt, but nothing to imply that she wishes she had never tried. I'm erasing myself from the narrative. Let future historians wonder how Eliza reacted when you broke her heart. You have thrown it all away. Stand back, watch it burn. Just watch it all burn. Remember that part I mentioned about in from That Would Be Enough, where she says, let me be a part of the narrative of the story that you'll write someday. Let this moment be the first chapter that you decide to stay. And now she wants to erase herself from that narrative. You guys, she is done. She is done with this man, and it is clear. Let future historians wonder how Eliza reacted when you broke her heart. I think that is a direct jab at the fact that he is so clearly unashamed about publishing intimate details, things that should be kept private, things that should not be seen by the public. That she's like, you know what, I'm not going to give you more material. You want them to know how your wife reacted. Oh, I'm actually not going to give them the satisfaction, right? Because she understands that the world does not care what he was doing. He didn't have to do all that to prove his innocence. He really didn't have to do that. But because of his convoluted way of trying to preserve his legacy, he gave the vultures exactly what they needed. He literally walked right into a trap that he set for himself, for his enemies. And so Eliza is like, I am taking no part in that. I am not giving you material so that you can turn around and look like the hero somehow. Because knowing Alexander, with how good he is with his words, I honestly would not have been surprised if he somehow took this encounter and found a way to make it sympathetic towards himself. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't really work because that is what I assume the Reynolds pamphlet was supposed to do. I mean, the man is delusional. The man really was delusional. So, but yeah, I find it very liberating for Eliza that she takes that chance. She restores her sense of agency when concerning how she stands by her husband's side. And she's like, you know what? I am not going to help you because I feel like she feels like all her effort to stand by his side was taken and thrown back in his face, especially because I remember touching on a point earlier where I said she probably feels jealousy and resentment that this scandal got published before she got any kind of public acknowledgement from Alexander, right? And so I think she is officially removing herself, and maybe there is the hope that he will crumble and realize just what he has lost. But it doesn't give me the sense of her doing it from a pathetic standpoint. It gives me the sense of her picking herself up, picking up the pieces, and leaving him to figure out his own mess. It's basically, you made this bed, now lie in it. I want no part in it, right? And then she says, you have thrown it all away. Stand back, watch it burn. Just watch it all burn. You have thrown it all away. He's thrown away his legacy, his family, her love and support, his reputation, and quite frankly, the shot that he said he wasn't going to throw away. Oh my gosh, you guys. The wordplay here is insane. You have thrown it all away. This reminds me a lot of a Bible verse that has similar sentiments. I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically something like, "For what good does it do a man to gain the world but lose his soul?" That is exactly what this is. And the irony is, he didn't even gain the world. People just lost respect for him even more. And so now he's got nothing. Like, he's a shell of the man he wanted to be. Not even the man he once was. The man he invested his entire teenage and young adult to whatever age he is life trying to build. All of that crumbled the moment he published that pamphlet. And the fact that Eliza is the one to tell him, because I'm pretty sure he hadn't realized just how badly he messed up. So the fact that she's the one to tell him, I think that says a lot about how much she stood for him, how invested she was in his life. Like, she was an actual destiny helper to this guy. So now she's stepping back and there's no one else who's going to propel him forward. I feel like he thought her support was automatic, but now that she's taken it away, as we'll come to see in the next songs, he's going to realize that he's not all that he thought he was by himself. I also have to say that the way they're dancing at this point, because they're all dancing together, it's very frustrated, agitated, and agonized. They are in pain. Like, the dancers are dancing with such passion and anger that it looks painful. So in the next part of the song, it says, "And when the time comes, explain to the children the pain and embarrassment you put their mother through. When will you learn that they are your legacy? We are your legacy. If you thought you were mine." And then at the very end, she goes, "Don't." And the song ends. But let's break it down. "And when the time comes, explain to the children." So this entire section of the song is interesting because they're taking turns. The ladies are taking turns to each represent a part of the song. But for the lady in white is the one who says, "When the time comes, explain to the children." So that's like, in all of this mess, don't forget that we still have the duty to our children to tell them what happened. We still have to think about them. You've gone and you've messed up life for everyone, but don't forget that we're still their parents. Outside of this mess, I'm angry at you. I want nothing to do with you. But we still have kids. And you know what? Because I am not part of this mess, you are going to deal with it. Explain to the children the pain and embarrassment you put their mother through. Can you imagine someone with Alexander's magnitude of pride and, albeit, self-preservation, trying to tell his kids that, "Hey kids, I cheated on your mom." Why? Just because. Like, it's so bad. This has got to be the most humbling and humiliating part of his life in the musical. Because the whole thing with wanting to leave a legacy is also that you want your kids to have a positive impression of you so that they're motivated to carry that legacy forward. But when you've messed it up this badly, it's enough for them to not actually want to be associated with you. And therefore, your legacy does not grow. It goes nowhere. It ends with you, literally. So all that effort that he made would have been for nothing. So this would be him. This would be the final nail in the coffin, you know? And as a father, he would have that obligation to tell them. And no matter what he does, even if he doesn't tell them about this, they would still know. But Eliza is giving him the chance to explain himself because, I guess to some degree, yes, it is punishing, but it's also her at least leaving him with the shred of dignity of being their father and coming clean. Because I think children appreciate it when the parents are honest, even in the face of something done wrong, a mistake. They appreciate it, and they're actually more likely to try and see your point of view. You may be wrong, but they will still try to see your point of view. Then she says, when will you learn that they are your legacy? We are your legacy. This is Eliza basically saying, open your eyes. You have had the thing you've been working so hard for the whole time, but we clearly don't matter to you. I think she's trying to show him that he's been so focused on one definition of legacy that he forgot the closest and best right in front of him. Because what better legacy are you going to leave than children? Because they're quite literally genetic copies of yourself. Sure, not exact copies, but they have your DNA. And that has been known to be the most sustainable, most long-lasting kind of legacy. I mean, this is how we can talk about ancestors and those before us and genealogies, all of that, you know? And if he succeeded in building this legacy, his children would do nothing more than try to perpetuate it, and it would outlive the entire generation, you know? But now, he's having to realize that he indeed has thrown it all away. And since he's ruined his career, he doesn't even have his family legacy to fall back on. Now he can't actually come back to this and be like, oh, I'm just going to be a family man now and work on his familial legacy. No, he's lost that too. And then she says, I like that she says, we are your legacy. She doesn't just stop at they are your legacy. We are your legacy, because she wanted to be part of that narrative. When she chose to marry him, she joined her life to his. She took her legacy and turned it into part of his. And I think that's all she wanted from him as well. And so I think what broke her heart is she obviously was willing to have a legacy with him, but he wasn't willing to have a legacy with her or their children. It's like he was treating her as an accessory, but not even one worth flaunting next to his prized possessions, like his treasure that he's gonna bury in a chest to be rediscovered later in the future and speak of his greatness, or whatever you would imagine a legacy to be a visual representation of. Because to me, it's giving treasure chest right now. Anyway, the last part she says is, if you thought you were mine. And then there's a lot of echoing, and then don't. You know, I sometimes struggle to understand what she means by if you thought you were mine. I feel like it can be interpreted as her saying, you thought you had me. You thought that I belonged to you, or rather you thought that you belonged to me. I don't know how to break that down, but I hope someone gets what I'm trying to say. But the clearer interpretation that I can get right now is she might still be talking about legacy, that, oh, we're your legacy, but if you thought you were mine, don't think that. Don't think you're my legacy anymore, because guess what? We're not walking the same path anymore. I have removed myself from anything to do with you. So I feel like that's what that is. Yeah. So with that, I end this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did when it came to making it. I wish I could have been more expressive, and I am unfortunately a bit tired right now. It's been a long day, but I would have done so much more. It's also that I didn't want this to be too long. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you want. No pressure, really. I might make another video like this again. I might not. It's just like a whim. It's on a whim. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching, and bye.